My mom would be proud of that intro. It doesn't really mean anything. It just means I'm old. I've been around for a long time. Hi, folks. I am so excited. I just went and spoke to the old people upstairs. And it's nice to talk to the people who are going to change the world. I'm going to talk to you today. You've heard from Stacy incredible stories about entrepreneurship. And some of you will choose that route, and that's spectacular. And some of you will choose to innovate inside organizations or in government or in education. And no matter what it is, you're going to need to know how to think smarter, faster, and more innovatively. And so a group of people got together around the world and said, we need to figure out the science of how people create ideas, how they create ideas. And what I'm going to talk to you today is about how to, we call it sort of jumpstart your brain. You're going to learn a system for how you can think smarter, faster, and more innovatively. So this applies to everything you do, every assignment you do, every course that you take, every problem you face in your personal and academic and in the jobs that you do. So I've worked with a lot of people, helped an awful lot of companies around the world do this to create ideas. And we've done research where we literally took teams of people from, companies like Nike and Coca-Cola and all these big name companies, these fancy folks, and we put them in a room and they're creating ideas, and every 45 minutes we measure them. We ask them questions, we take their ideas from them, and we give people who don't know which group it came from, they score which are really big ideas, not that good ideas, how many ideas they've got. And we spent 2 years researching some 6,000 teams creating ideas to figure out what really drove ideas that happened. And we found that meaningfully unique ideas, in other words, the kind of ideas that make a difference that matters in people's lives, are created when you have three things. And this is at, as we say, the 95% confidence level. This is what the data shows. The first thing is you have to explore stimulus. You have to feed your brain. As I'll talk, ideas are feats of association. Then it's not enough to have the stimulus. And by the way, this is what learning does. This is why your courses matter. It doesn't matter that you know this and you can put it on the test, but what matters is you have those experiences in the arts and humanities and in science and in math, because all of that feeds your mental food processor that gives you raw material to create new ideas in the future. That's why education matters. Now, we can actually grow the impact of that learning. And the way we grow the impact of that learning, and it's not additive, it's not multiplicative, it's exponential, is through diversity of thinking. When we have people who are different look at the same thing, they see different things, as you'd expect. Now, this is our ability to create ideas. Ideas are feats of association, collaborating with others who see it differently, the discussion, the debate, and eureka, we have the ideas. This is realized to the level that we drive out fear. If your fear is high, then you have the idea, but you don't say it, you don't do it. If your fear is low, then you're likely to do it. So what we need is systems. We need a system for exploring stimulus, we need systems for collaboration, and we need systems for driving out fear. And those three things are what you need to solve the problems that you face and the ideas. So stimulus. Stimulus mining, we call it. So you've got a problem, you're faced with this problem, what am I going to do about this? And you can sit there and be frozen in fear, or you can start to learn. And the first thing you need to do is, let me learn more about it. And we call it stimulus mining. And in fact, the data shows in the teams that we worked with, we asked them how much stimulus they had, and then we tracked that against the number of ideas. And teams that had a lot of stimulus came up with 47 practical ideas versus 22. So this is called making you smarter really quick. It's like you can double your brain by getting stimulus. See, the classic method of creating ideas is called brainstorming, or I think of it as kind of brain draining, where you sit and you think and you think and you think. And I call this kind of like the suck method of creativity, where you're sucking the ideas out of your head and trying to think of what you've got. And for most of us, this is a short experience. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to give a stimulus. We're going to go learn more about the challenge, and then we're going to put it into our brain, and out of this causes a chain reaction to create ideas. In fact, the research shows that when we really get good at this and do this, we come up with not 10%, not 20%, but 700% more ideas when we get really good at using the stimulus. So let me give you an idea. You can take a blank piece of paper and come up with ideas for where to go on vacation. And you'd start to make a list. Or you could have a collection of stimulus. Okay? Which one's easier? Get the concept? But the challenge is that we've been taught that it has to come from us. And that looking for things is almost like it's cheating. No, it's the way it works. The artist, the poet, walks through the woods and sees two paths and is inspired to write a poem. Or an artist sees something and it sparks the thought. So we need to open ourselves up. Ideas are feats of association. Two or more unrelated ideas come together to create a new idea. It's 1 + 1 = 3. So, years ago, there were sofas or couches. And somebody had the idea of, what if I took a sofa or a couch and I added to it a bed? And thus was created a sofa bed. Meaningfully unique in its day. Again, I told you I'm old. Then somebody said, what if I took a radio and a toaster and I created a toaster radio? Okay, maybe not meaningfully unique, but you get the idea, okay? So we're taking two things and bringing them together. And this is how the brain works. You've all got about 200 million neurons. You can't grow new brain cells, although there's some new evidence that exercise can actually do it. Stress kills brain cells. But the difference is not in the number of brain cells, but the number of synapses, the wiring between the cells, the interconnections. And so the more you learn, the more courses you take, the more things you experience, the more countries you visit, the more things you do, feeds that mental food processor and gives you more capacity to create ideas. Dr. Rosewig, University of California at Berkeley, did a famous study where he put rats in a cage, an impoverished cage with nothing. They just had the cage. And then he put some where they had an enriched environment, lots of stimulus. And sure enough, when they gave the rats tests to see how creative they were to solve problems, the rats that had had a more enriched environment, that had done more, connected more, were smarter. Interestingly, he also did one where the rats got to see rats having fun. So they're in a place where it's no fun, but they get to see it. And what he found is that didn't do it. See, use it or lose it with your brain. The more you get experiences, the more you watch different things, connect on the internet, connect with friends, the more you do, the more you're able to do. That study is the reason why children's toys are so brightly colored, is to stimulate children. Well, guess what? We know that this continues up to age 80. You have the ability to grow your brain, so it's not too late. Now with stimulus, we've learned there's two types of stimulus. The stimulus that's related to the problem you face, and stimulus that's unrelated to it. So if our idea was to come up with ideas for a new type of candy, I could turn around and have a lot of fruits. And fruits would spark ideas. You might get ideas for different types of candies based on the fruits, the shape of the fruits, the flavor of the fruits, or crossing a banana grapefruit, or whatever you wanted to do. Now, if I gave you a race car that has nothing to do with it, you're going to get fewer ideas, but you're going to be forced to come up with something even more unique. Because you would take that race car and you'd think about it. And you might think, okay, it's a race car. What's that have to do with candy? It's nothing. Okay, what does it do? It's fast. It's quick. It's easy. Okay, so the candy goes down fast. Okay, the candy goes slow. The candy leaves skid marks. Whatever it might be. Stimulus. That's the fuel. And now we kick it alive with diversity. Diversity of thinking, people who act and think differently, who have different views, is fundamental. Literally, the number of when people were in groups where there were people that were not like them, that they didn't necessarily agree with, they came up with more ideas. See, if I have the stimulus of a rose, and I have people that sound alike, look alike, talk alike, they might see the same thing when they see it. Their stimulus, the rose, they see the same thing, beauty, beauty, beauty. But if instead I have weirdo brains, people that are different, one might see beauty, another one might see vitamin C tea, because see, rose hips are very concentrated in vitamin C, and they make for a wonderful tea. Another one might see rose water with the rose in their teeth, or the tango. That means getting together with people who are different than you. Not only age, sex, and race, but mindset, backgrounds, culture, even people you disagree with. And when you gather with those people, you get fresh thoughts and ideas. And this is a mega impact. And when you learn to work with people that are different, this includes your parents. Yes, there is a benefit to their stubbornness. There's thoughts and ideas that can be sparked from this. And then lastly, the issue is to drive out fear. Okay. When you've got an idea that's different, if you're human, it's going to create fear. It's going to create an anxiety. Should I do it? Shouldn't I? Should I do it? Shouldn't I? Well, you actually already know how to do this. It's the way you learned how to ride a bike. There's a system a guy by the name of Dr. W. Edwards Deming invented many years ago called his theory of knowledge, of how we really move forward and create new things. It's called plan, do, study, act. What we do is we set the goal to ride the bike. You say, okay, I need to solve this problem. This is what I need to do. And then you do something. You try something. You learn from it. And then you act. You say, okay, that didn't work. Let me try this. And you do those cycles, just like Stacy just said, and you slowly learn it. And that's how you make it happen. So you take the risk, and a bite at a time. There's an old joke, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You take that fear and you take it one step at a time. You say, what could I try? What's the one thing I could try? And then I try it again, and I try again, and I learn. See, the old way we would do it is we would plan, study, study, study. We would study forever. Let me get this figured out. The new way is what we call fail fast, fail cheap. Is we try something quickly, and we learn and learn and learn again. One of the things that happens, actually, is if you're creating ideas, and you're with some friends and talking about this, one of the things we know is that fun is fundamental to this process. If you can laugh at yourself, and you can laugh together, it's a good sign you've probably got the fear quotient down. They did a study at the University of Maryland where they had students watch blooper reel from TV shows, mistakes. Got the students laughing. They had another group of students watch the math film, The Area Under the Curve. Not a riveting film. They had the groups then solve problems. The group that were laughing, 300 to 500% more effective at solving the problem. So when you're looking at challenges, and you've got those ideas, and you're kicking them around with friends, and you're thinking about it, don't take yourself too seriously. The more you're laughing, the better chance of an idea. A friend of mine, Chick Thompson, says we start as 5 years of age, we laugh 110 times a day, it drops to 87 times, it then goes way down, now you understand your parents, only to come back on retirement, you know the way your grandparents are. See, we lead a dumbbell of a life. We have fun in youth, and we have fun at the end, and the middle is ugly. Don't be like your parents. So 3 simple principles, my friends. Meaningful, unique ideas. Ideas that make a difference. To do this, we need to explore stimulus, diversity, and drive out fear. That means you need to become a continuous learner. You need to be a learner. You need to be out there and learning everything you can do. Don't worry about what it is. You don't know when you're going to use it later. I studied chemical engineering with a minor in pulp and paper, making paper. Today, I've invented a whiskey company that applies paper making to the aging of whiskey. Instead of 8 to 18 years, I can do it in 40 minutes because I've applied what I learned in pulp and paper classes that I thought I would never use to make whiskey. You never know the things you're learning today, what somewhere in the future, that thing that teacher taught you, it's going to become useful. And that's what life's about. It's about learning. Never-ending learning. We got to work with others. Now, we've got a world sometimes where people say, well, they're like this, this group, that group. Get over that. We're all people. We're here to work together. And then lastly, we got to run experiments. Everybody has to become a scientist, someone to try something. Don't sit and debate it. Try something. With the whiskey company, we did 4,000 experiments, and next thing you know, we won 2 of 8 of the top awards for whiskey. So you can do it. Be a learner, work with others, and experiment. Thank you very much, everybody.